Alright, here it is in action. So we got pulley, drill hole there, so we're basically locked in. Wait for that to come out unless it breaks. That's on all four corners. And then at the top here, same thing. We're drilled through there. I have not cut this cable yet, it's still on the spool. I'm waiting for a tool so I can cut that a little better than I have been, rather than trying to hack them off. And then got the garage door pulleys, or cable drums. So I'm thinking long term I'm probably gonna drill a hole through here and then loop that through and then put the cable clamp on, so that there's no way if this gets unwound too much that can fall off. Same thing for the hoist. I didn't want to take that all apart quite yet, just in case something didn't work right on it. I could return it, but I'll cut this contraption off here and do a through hole. I'm more concerned with this one than anything, because this is the one that it's unspooling when you raise it up. So, and it's all the way up. If you overwind it, you can disconnect it, and then the whole thing's going to come crashing down. So this is my single point of failure. This is probably the most concerning thing on the whole setup. So I'm going to see if I can find maybe like a machined cable drum or something that's steel, that's probably a little better suited for this. But for now, this'll do the job. I'm not super happy with the way the hoist is attached too. I really wanted the hoist to be on end, so I could get a little better strength, because these, I don't know. These flex a lot, so I'm not super happy with how all that's turned out. But those are pretty snug down with those washers smashed like that. And we got lock nuts on those as well. So this was the only configuration I could get where it cleared this. I also would prefer it to be on the other side, so we could get this angle higher. I could back this up, and then when the platform comes up, it would give me a little more clearance. But you know, it's working, and it's going to be high enough it doesn't hit my head, so that's really all that matters. And then as far as mounting goes, this is 1/2 inch all thread. So we got a nut on the top washer and then a nut on the bottom. So those aren't lock nuts, but they are, there's 2 of them to lock them down. And then the bearings are just standard garage door. So I have a couple pieces of 3/4 inch PVC conduit as spacers, so I can kind of pinch this bearing so we won't have any slop back and forth here. Those are working. I've got key. Typical garage door cable drums don't have a key slot in them, so I guess these bigger doors that are made for like 12-foot doors, some of them have the key slot in them. So I made sure to find that, so there was no possible way for that to slip. Yeah, so the hinge, or sorry, not the hinges, the bearings are also this washer, lock nut. I got some, I think they're called flange washers. Get a little better coverage on that big opening there. And kind of the same thing on the other end, slightly different. But I think I'm gonna do a quick link on this, because I designed it where I could do the same thing as what's on the bottom, but it was actually so high up that this was not clearing the unistrut, so it was rubbing on the unistrut. So I think if I put a quick link here, that'll get that low enough. This was just kind of a proof of concept with a piece of rope and a square knot, so that's really easy to undo, even though it's ultra tight from all the pressure that I have on it. And I may even move this forward and put both of these on the same bolt. Maybe, because I think there's enough clearance, but I also don't know if I want to put all that weight on a single point, whereas I'm distributing the weight between the two. So I may leave it. I haven't decided for sure. If I do keep these this way, I will add a third one and then have a fixed point for when this is hoisted up here and here, and I will fix it so that it's not relying 100% on the hoist brake to hold the whole thing up. So really just for storage and some extra redundancy. So pretty simple here, and same thing on this end. I'll add another screw through there. I'll give you a quick demo. So, see it all working. Raising up. Do a wide shot here. So you can see as these cable drums right here are spooling up, this one is unspooling. Kind of just I didn't really think that through when I first did it, when I was first designing it, but I mean, it makes sense because you're wanting that one to pull the opposite direction of these two. And it is, all of these are directional, so the way I have these set up where when they spool up, the cables, as it gets closer to the top, they're actually working their way in so that everything will be as lined up as possible with the unistrut and this point of contact here. So that took a little bit of finagling to kind of figure out how that would all work. And that's partly in those spacers because the set screws are on the wrong side, so I had to flip those around and get them as close to possible as being able to fit a wrench in there and also clear the unistrut without hitting it, because those are slightly above the unistrut there. So same for this one, it lines up, so as this is spooling up and working its way left, this is unspooling and working its way left. And same thing on this side. So works really nice. You can kind of see here what I was talking about. A little bit of flex there. I don't have a lot of weight on it yet. When I stood on it and raised it up, it flexed. Not an uncomfortable amount, but it did flex quite a bit. So that was kind of to be expected. That may be well within spec, but I did try to get it as far to the left as possible so that we're, have minimal flex over here versus like having it right in the center, and also, pulling my shaft too much. Try to get the least amount of deflection as possible. So we'll go ahead and lower it down. So you can see as we lower it, it's unspooling the hoist and spooling up that one. And I said 12-foot door. Now I'm thinking these might be 16-foot doors because the way I have the pulleys set up, it's 8 feet. The ceiling, it's like 8.5 feet, I think. And basically going from the ground to the ceiling, we're spooling up that whole thing. Although, yeah, I guess we still have about 12 inches once it's up all the way. So yeah, maybe it is for a 12-foot door. I'm wondering if maybe like 16 feet or somewhere in between. But anyway, these cable drums are bigger than your typical garage door cable drum. And that also means the cable size, I believe, is slightly bigger. I think normal, this is 5/32 cable. I think typical garage door would be like 1/8 inch, maybe. So it's probably overkill for this, but it's what fits the drums, and more is probably not worse in this scenario. So we'll run up to the attic and I'll show you the top side. Okay, so coming up here. Okay, so I didn't want to remove the decking but I am straddling here. It's probably kind of hard to see. I am straddling the rafter, so you can kind of see it right there where the sawdust is built up in there. So it is straddling, and I just have some lag screws going in, just to keep this positioned between them. And then there's the same setup with the unistrut and the all thread. There's a nut right below that and a 2.5 inch hole for that washer to fit in, and it gives me a little bit of room. Actually, when I was designing it, I thought I needed the unistrut to be a little bit wider, so I had moved it to this slot, but then I ended up moving it back, and that seems to be a nice alignment. And then for the other part that's not decked, there's an example of that one, so it's a little better visual indicator of how everything's anchored. So there's really no way, unless something happened with that unistrut, or the if the unistrut buckled or the all thread somehow failed, there's really no way for anything to pull out of the wood, because there's nothing holding on to the wood. It's all sitting on top of the rafters. So worked pretty nice. A lot of trial and error, just redoing and undoing and redoing stuff over and over, and it's working nice. It's a little bit of a trip hazard, I guess, when you're up here trying to put boxes and stuff, but yeah, for whatever reason, these rafters are 12 inches apart on this side, and they are 16 inches apart on this side. No, 18 inches. So I don't know if they were working on two different sides and that's just where they met in the middle and they were off slightly or what, but that kind of messed me up, because I cut 4 pieces of 12 inch, and then when I got up here I had 2 of the wrong size. But anyway, made it work, and it gives you that adjustability. So even though 2 rafters may not fall exactly where you need them, with the unistrut gives you some flexibility.